In the village of Bhagalpur in Bihar, there's a saying that chills people to the bone. The one who hurts you the most is never the stranger at your door. It's the one sleeping right beside you. My name is Sarla, 28 years old, a primary school teacher. For 2 years, I believed I had the most peaceful marriage in the entire village. A gentle husband, caring in every small way. A tiny home, yet filled with warmth. A life everyone around us admired. But trust, when placed in the wrong hands, becomes a poison that slowly destroys a woman's entire life. And I swallowed that poison every single night with all the foolish faith I had in my heart. Before I tell you everything, if you're listening to this right now, drop the name of your village in the comments so I know I'm not telling this story alone. Because what happened next might save another woman's life. There are some tragedies that begin with a peace so perfect, it makes you lower your guard without even knowing it. And my life was exactly that. If only I had known that every moment of happiness was just a curtain, hiding the nightmare behind it. Maybe I would have looked closer. I met Raghav during a village festival in the next town. Tall, gentle, soft-spoken. In the middle of that loud, colorful crowd, his smile felt like a calm place to rest. After our wedding, everyone kept saying, Sarla is so lucky. Men like Raghav are rare. Rare? Yes. So rare that the whole village thought I was living inside a dream. Every morning, Raghav made tea for me with a little extra ginger because he knew my throat often hurt after long hours of teaching. He would walk me to the gate and say, Be careful on the road, Sarla. Looks like it might rain today. In the evenings, when I returned home, the food was already warmed, the vegetables cooked, and the chapatis waiting neatly in the container. He always asked me, Were the children naughty today? I felt lucky. Sometimes I even felt proud. Proud that I had married a man who cared about every small detail of my life. My mother-in-law, Kamlaji, was gentle too. Nothing like the frightening mother-in-law stories people tell in villages. She often said, We may be poor, beta, but our home is full of love. On winter evenings, Raghav and I would sit in the courtyard, holding hot cups of chai, watching the neighborhood children run and laugh. Raghav would wrap his arm around my shoulders, rest his forehead against mine, as if nothing in this world could ever separate the two of us. I remember those moments so painfully because now, when I look back, I know the truth. He didn't hold me because he loved me. He held me to make sure the medicine in my body was still doing its work. But back then, I knew nothing. About 6 months after our wedding, Raghav brought home a small orange bottle. A tonic, he called it. He said, Teaching kids is stressful, Sarla. Drink this at night. You'll sleep well, your mind will feel light. I read online that it's really good, and I trusted him instantly. I was even touched, thinking my husband was concerned about my health. The first night I drank it, I slept so deeply that my mother-in-law had to shake me awake the next morning. Raghav just smiled and said, See, as long as you can sleep, it's good for you. From that day on, every night, he would hand me a capful of that tonic himself. And with each passing day, I trusted him a little more and sank a little deeper into the chaos I didn't even realize I was living in. Looking back now, I just want to scream at the woman I used to be. Sarla, open your eyes. Sometimes too much peace is the first warning of a coming storm. Tell me in the comments. Have you ever met someone like Raghav? Someone so kind, so perfect, that it almost felt suspicious? There are small changes, so small that if you're not paying attention, you'd mistake them for ordinary things. But when I look back now, I know clearly those were the first knocks of the nightmare waiting outside my door. It all began very softly. Some mornings, I woke up with my head heavy, as if someone had placed a stone on it. My arms and legs felt weak. My eyes burned and my throat was dry, like I hadn't slept at all. I told myself, it's because I teach too much. Village kids are so naughty. Raghav became even more caring. He would rub my shoulders and say, with a voice full of worry, "You're overworking yourself, Sarla. Thank God that tonic is helping you sleep well." And I believed him. I believed him so foolishly, so innocently, just like so many women in our villages do. Then one night, I went to sleep wearing my blue salwar. But the next morning, I woke up in my yellow one, the one I rarely even touched. I panicked for a moment. Why would I change? Raghav just laughed, as if it was nothing more than some childish confusion. You changed in the middle of the night, Sarla. You were mumbling something too. Maybe you were dreaming. I forced myself to laugh along. Why would I doubt him? If my husband said so, it must be true, right? But on the third day, when I opened the cupboard to look for the blue salwar, I found it folded perfectly, as if it had never been worn the night before. My heart skipped a beat. I had no memory, none at all, of doing that. But that wasn't all. In the weeks that followed, I started having strange gaps in my memory. One day, I went to the market to buy vegetables, and the vendor looked at me and said, "Same things as yesterday, Beta?" Yesterday? I hadn't gone to the market yesterday. Another evening, my mother-in-law asked, "Sarla, did you finish making the chapatis?" I just stared at her, because in my memory, I hadn't even entered the kitchen that day. I started getting scared, truly scared. But every time I tried to talk to Raghav about it, he would gently place his hand on my head and say, "You're too stressed, Sarla. Take a few days off from school." His voice was warm, his eyes were soft, and it's hard, almost impossible, to doubt someone who treats you with such kindness. Then one morning, while tying my hair, I noticed a bruise on my arm. Round, dark, the size of a fingertip. The shock froze me in place. My hands trembled as I touched it. That night, I asked Raghav, "Why is my arm like this?" He frowned in worry, as if he was scared too. "You must have turned too hard in your sleep, Sarla. Maybe you hit the side of the bed, or maybe you're low on iron. I'll take you to the doctor tomorrow." It sounded logical, very logical, so reasonable that I actually felt guilty for doubting him. But deep inside, there was a tiny voice, thin as a strand of hair, but sharp as a blade. Something is wrong. A healthy woman doesn't forget this much. And from that moment on, I began watching every tiny movement in the house, every single one. If the earlier signs were just a light drizzle, from this moment on, everything began to fall, like a full-blown summer storm. Things started happening that I could no longer blame on tiredness, forgetfulness, or dreams. One night, when my body felt heavy from that familiar tonic, I suddenly woke up midway through my sleep, not fully conscious, but not completely gone either. I felt like I was drowning underwater, trying to rise to the surface, but unable to. The room was pitch dark. I couldn't move. My head was spinning, and my eyelids felt as if someone was forcing them shut. And then I heard a sound. Not a rat, not the wind, but footsteps. Slow, soft, yet unmistakably human. My heart was pounding, each beat sharp, painful, as if it wanted to tear through my chest. Raghav opened the door and walked into the room. I tried to close my eyes tighter, but my body felt too heavy to respond. He stood right beside my bed. I could feel his breath on my skin. So close, it sent a shiver crawling down my spine. Raghav gently touched my hand, testing how deeply I was asleep. And then I heard him whisper, "Good, dead asleep." That sentence froze every vein in my body. It wasn't the voice of a worried husband. It was the voice of a man, making sure his prey could not move. After that, he left the room. And the moment the door clicked shut, I heard him speaking on the phone out in the veranda. His voice was low, but every word felt like it was being carved straight into my ears. "Yeah, she's asleep. Tonight the dose is stronger. Don't worry, she won't wake up. Price is the same." I wanted to sit up. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream, to punch the door, to make someone hear me. But my body refused to move. It felt like I was tied to the bed, frozen in place, while tears slid down my cheeks. And I couldn't even tell whether they were from fear or pure, helpless despair. The next morning, Raghav prepared my tonic again and placed it gently in my hand, just like every other day. His smile was still soft, his voice still calm. But me, I was terrified of that very smile. That was the first morning in my life when I looked at my husband the way you look at a stranger, a dangerous stranger. The entire day while teaching, my head felt like it was going to explode. I kept replaying the words he whispered the night before. Price is the same. Price? Price for what? What was he selling? And the most terrifying thought of all, the one that made my stomach twist, was the thing he was selling me. There are moments in life when you realize that if you don't save yourself, no one else will. And that night was exactly that moment for me. After overhearing that phone call, I could no longer pretend everything was normal. At the same time, I understood something very clearly. If I showed even a hint of suspicion, Raghav would know immediately. He was smart, calm, and frightening in a cold, calculated way. So I had to be careful. Silent, still, like a cat lying motionless, waiting for the right moment to bite back at the snake that bit her first. That night, when Raghav handed me the familiar capful of tonic, I smiled softly and said, "I'm so tired today. Good thing I have you." I lifted the cap to my lips, pretending to drink it in one go, then let out a small cough, just enough to hide the sound of me spitting the tonic into my handkerchief. My body had become so used to the drug that even the smell of it made my eyelids heavy. But I forced myself to stay awake. I had to. I needed to be alert, to watch every move he made. Around 11 p.m., Raghav came into the room to check on me. Just like every night, I lay perfectly still, breathing evenly, eyes closed, hands relaxed, as if the drug had pulled me deep under. He stood beside the bed for a long, long moment. I heard him whisper softly, "Sarla?" I didn't react, not even a twitch, only when he exhaled in quiet relief. Did I know he truly believed I was unconscious? When he left the room, I opened my eyes, fear and fury burning inside me, like a spark dropped onto oil. The next morning, I took leave from school. I said I had a headache, and I did, but it wasn't from illness. It was from the weight of terror pressing on my mind. I walked to the next town, avoiding every familiar face on the way. I entered a small shop that sold old electronic items and quietly asked for a mini camera. The shopkeeper stared at me curiously. "What does a girl need this for?" I gave him a thin smile. "There are too many rats in my house, uncle. I need to see where they come from." He didn't ask anything after that. I brought home 2 tiny cameras, no bigger than the tip of my little finger, with rechargeable batteries and memory card slots. That night was the first night I truly stood face to face with my fear. When Raghav went out to buy something, I installed one camera behind our wedding photo frame. The second one I hid behind the clothes shelf in the wardrobe, facing directly toward the bed. My heart was beating so fast that my hands trembled again and again. I almost dropped the camera twice. If Raghav had come home early at that moment, I don't know what would have happened to me. Luckily, he came back late. All night, I lay there, eyes half closed, ears sharp and alert, waiting to see what he would do. And when I heard him open the door and step outside in the middle of the night, I knew my camera was about to capture the truth. A truth I wanted to know and yet feared so deeply that my stomach tightened just thinking about it. If you're a woman, tell me, have you ever sensed something wrong inside your own home? A feeling you couldn't explain, but your heart whispered it anyway? There are some truths that once you see them, you wish you had never known them at all. And the video I watched the next morning was exactly that kind of truth. Cruel, inhuman, cold as steel. Raghav left the house at 1:32 a.m. I lay on the bed, eyes barely open, listening to the door latch. I didn't dare follow him. I only switched on my phone quietly and opened the camera app. My heart almost stopped. The bedroom camera showed Raghav slipping back into the room at 1:58 a.m. He stood beside the bed for a long time, as if he was studying my body. Then he adjusted me, gently lifted my arm, tilted my head to the right, and brushed my hair to one side. Just like someone arranging a doll, I could see clearly that his hands were trembling, not out of love, but because he was doing something he had done many times before. And then he took out his phone and started taking pictures. Click, 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 one after another, from different angles, calm, practiced, methodical. I was so shocked that even the phone in my own hand began to shake uncontrollably. But the nightmare did not stop there. The second camera, the one hidden behind the wardrobe door, captured everything at 2:10 a.m. Raghav walked through the house, opened the back door, and a strange man stepped inside. I froze. The man handed Raghav a brown envelope. Raghav opened it and counted the money calmly, like this was nothing new. Then he pointed toward my room, pointed toward me, as if pointing at a product he was selling. The stranger didn't walk up to the door, but he leaned forward, peering through the small gap, staring directly at the place where I lay unconscious in the video. And then he smiled. That smile made me want to vomit. He said quietly, "Good, I'll see her again tomorrow." Raghav nodded, without shame, without hesitation, without even blinking. In that moment, everything suddenly made sense. All those nights, my sleepwear changed. All those bruises, all those days I couldn't remember anything. That phone call about the same price. It all fit together. I wasn't just being drugged. I was being sold. sold like an object. Inside my own home, I broke down. Not the kind of crying where you scream or sob, but the kind where there are no tears left, only sharp, painful breaths that feel like knives cutting through your chest. I bent forward, holding my head, wanting to scream, wanting to tear the whole house apart. But I understood one thing. The most important thing, if I lost control, I would die in his hands. I had to stay quiet. I had to stay alert. I had to escape this place. And I had to do it without letting him suspect me for even a single second. If you're watching till this point, tell me what you think Sarla should do next. Comment just one word, run or fate. When you realize the person sleeping beside you is a beast wearing human skin, your survival instinct rises in ways you never imagined possible. I, Sarla, died once the moment I watched that video, and the woman who stood up afterward was no longer the gentle, soft-spoken school teacher. She was someone who had no choice but to survive. Right after finishing the video, I switched off my phone, wiped my tears, and forced myself to breathe steadily. I knew Raghav would return at 6 a.m., just like every day, with a cup of warm milk and that gentle smile of his. I had to act like I knew nothing. Even a single wrong blink could cost me my life. I held my head in my hands for a few minutes, then stood up and faced myself in the mirror. My face was pale, my eyes swollen and red, my lips trembling. He cannot see me like this, I whispered to myself. I lightly tapped my cheeks to reduce the swelling, braided my hair neatly, and applied a bit of scented hair oil to mask the smell of pure fear. When Raghav opened the door and said, "Wake up, wife, the weather is beautiful today," I smiled. The most fake smile I had ever given in my life. I looked into his eyes, and it felt like staring straight into a demon. But somehow, I still managed to say, "Can you make my milk today?" Just like every other morning. That was the first time I truly understood what it means to act. I needed a plan, a perfect plan. I couldn't call the police right away. My phone had already lost messages, sent texts on its own. I knew he was monitoring it. If I made even the slightest noise, he would know instantly. I had only one choice: prepare, pretend, collect evidence, then disappear. That afternoon, when Raghav went out for one of his so-called meetings with friends, I entered the bedroom, locked the door, and began to prepare. I transferred every bit of footage from both cameras. I emailed the videos to 3 different accounts. I copied the files onto a USB and hid it inside the sole of my slipper. I packed a few sets of clothes into a small bag and pushed it underneath the bed. I wrote a message to my best friend, Sheila, but did not send it. I only took a screenshot in case the police ever needed proof that I had tried to reach out. Every step I took was calculated carefully, as if I were walking through a minefield. At night, when he handed me the tonic, I pretended to drink it again. He watched me more closely than usual, as if some instinct warned him. I smiled softly, sweetly. "Love, tomorrow is Sunday. What would you like to eat?" Just a small question, but enough to make him believe. I suspected nothing. That night, after he fell asleep, I sat in the dark, hugging my knees, listening to his every breath. I knew if he opened his eyes and saw me awake, I would not live to see the morning. I was ready to run. I just needed the perfect moment. Tomorrow morning, The morning of destiny arrived under a sky washed in dull grey. No sunlight, no wind, only a heavy silence, the kind that warns you something terrible is coming. I woke up an hour before Raghav. I lay still, staring at the ceiling, counting each rapid heartbeat thundering inside my chest. Today, I have to leave this place. If I don't, there will be no tomorrow for me. I stood up quietly, moving with the caution of someone walking on thin, cracking earth. One wrong step, and everything could shatter. I washed my face, combed my hair, and draped myself in a soft pink sari. Raghav's favorite. I had to make him believe that everything was perfectly normal. When Raghav woke up, he looked at me with a slight frown. Sarla, you're up early? I smiled. I wanted to make parathas for you. Just one sentence, and he relaxed completely. Because in our village, a woman waking up early to cook is the most ordinary thing in the world. He nodded, still half asleep, and that was my advantage. I went down to the kitchen, opened the cupboard, and pulled out the small bag I had hidden under the bed the night before. Inside were just a few clothes, the USB with all the evidence, some loose cash, and my identity card. My heart was pounding like thunder in my chest. I heard his footsteps walking into the bathroom. That was the only moment he ever took his eyes off me. I grabbed the bag, moved quickly toward the back door, lifted the latch, and Sarla, I froze. His voice. Right behind me, I turned around slowly. Raghav stood in the veranda, eyes narrowed, staring at the bag in my hand. Why are you carrying a bag? His voice was no longer sweet, no longer gentle, no longer the husband I once loved. It was the voice of a demon. I swallowed hard and forced myself to sound calm. I was going to take the clothes to wash by the river. He took one step toward me, then another. In the morning, and with a bag that looks like you're running away, I stepped back until my spine hit the door. In that instant, I understood. If I didn't run now, he would lock me up. Or worse, he grabbed my arm violently, so hard the bag nearly slipped from my fingers. I screamed, Raghav, you're hurting me. He tightened his grip even more. His eyes were filled with anger and something else, fear. Fear that I had discovered something. He shouted, Sarla, you've been acting strange these days. What are you hiding? What did you see on your phone? Tell me. I trembled like a dry leaf. But beneath the terror, a single truth rose inside me. If I don't fight back now, I'll die before I ever get the chance to run. With every ounce of strength I had left, I shoved him hard. He stumbled. Just a few seconds, but they were enough. I threw the door open and ran. I sprinted toward the dirt road that led to the bus stop. Behind me, I heard his voice explode. Sarla, stop! His footsteps thundered after me. I didn't dare look back. I ran through the paddy fields, ran until my eyes burned, until my legs felt like they were tearing apart, until every breath ripped through my chest. I knew only one thing. If he caught me, my life would be over. I don't remember how long I ran. All I knew was that my legs felt like they were about to snap, my throat burned, and my breath kept breaking in panic. I pushed myself across the stone-lined path that led to the village's main market. The only place always crowded with people, the only place where I knew Raghav couldn't drag me back in public. When I reached the market gate, my body nearly collapsed. A vegetable seller recognized me. Sarla, what happened, Beta? Who's chasing you? I couldn't speak. Not a single word. I just shook my head as tears streamed down my face like a river. From a distance, I heard Raghav's footsteps and then his voice loud, commanding, Sarla, don't listen to anyone, come home. Terror washed over me so hard. I thought I would faint, but I forced every last bit of strength into my legs and ran into a nearby tea stall. The owner, an old friend of my father, saw me and immediately pulled me inside, slamming the door shut. Child, what happened? What did Raghav do to you? I was gasping for air, crying so hard my words broke apart. Uncle, please, save me. His face tightened with worry. Without a second thought, he told his wife to take me upstairs and hide me in the loft. He went downstairs and stood firmly in front of the door. Raghav arrived moments later, breathing heavily, rage dripping from his voice. Uncle Prakash, did you see Sarla? Uncle Prakash looked him straight in the eye. Your eyes are bloodshot like a man high on drugs. And you dare stand here asking me that? Raghav froze. Not a word came out. Uncle continued, Sarla is a daughter of this entire village. If you want to lay a hand on her, step over me first. For the first time, I saw Raghav step back. He clenched his teeth, exhaled sharply, and turned to leave. But the look he gave, cold, sharp, filled with hatred, told me one thing clearly. This wasn't over. Not even close. I had to leave the village. Immediately. Uncle and Aunt Prakash took me to the empty room upstairs, gave me water, a towel, and waited until my breathing steadied. When I finally calmed down, Uncle asked softly, Tell me, what did Raghav do to you? I opened the USB folder on my phone. Just a few seconds of the video were enough. Uncle slammed his hand on the table so hard, I jumped. That bastard. Don't worry, child. No one gets to hide something like this. He grabbed his motorbike and drove me straight to the police station. In the next town, 7 kilometers away, I held my bag tight, my heart beating all the way up in my throat. At the police station, my hands were shaking as I handed over my phone, the USB, and every piece of evidence I had. The female officer, Anita, watched just 10 seconds of the video before she shot to her feet. Sarla ji, this is not just domestic abuse. This is illegal sexual image trafficking. This is poisoning. This is severe bodily violation. We have to act immediately. I broke down crying, not out of pain, but because for the first time in months, someone believed me. Someone listened. Anita called the special unit at once. Within minutes, 2 police vehicles were dispatched straight to my house. 12 p.m. that afternoon, Raghav was arrested. He never expected me to escape. He never expected me to have evidence. He never expected me to find the courage to speak. When the police handcuffed him, right at the front gate of our house, he looked at me, eyes filled with hatred, with challenge. Sarla, you dare? I wiped my tears and answered, I don't just dare. I will make you pay for every drop of that tonic you forced into my body. The police pushed him into the van and slammed the door shut. The engine started and the vehicle drove away, leaving only a cloud of dust behind. And for the first time in many days, I felt like I could finally breathe. After the arrest, I was taken to a women's support center. The days that followed were some of the hardest of my life. Giving statements, undergoing medical tests, and facing the truth of everything Raghav had done to me. But for the first time, I wasn't alone. The police believed me. Uncle Prakash protected me. And the women at the center held me in their arms and said, "You survived. That means you're already strong." Raghav was charged with multiple serious offenses. He will spend many years in prison. And me, I'm slowly finding myself again. Piece by piece, breath by breath. Day by day, I'm learning how to sleep without fear, how to breathe without trembling, how to look back at my life without seeing shadows everywhere. If you've stayed with me till this moment, leave a comment so I know someone out there is listening to my story. And if you or any woman you know ever feel that something is not right, please trust your instincts. It might just save your life.